Right, so today's video is going to show you how to make my classic book bouquet. Now, this was one of my first book bouquets and it's been a bestseller for many years. And I do have a larger version that I will be showing in a tutorial in a few months' time. But this is my standard small posy. It's ideal for bridesmaids of all ages, and it's even been used as a bride's bouquet because not every bride wants to have a big massive cascading bouquet. You know, if you just want to keep it simple and understated, then this bouquet is pretty much perfect. And as I always say, it's pollen free. It will keep for years and years, and you can have it made from any book you like. You don't have to bind it in ivory or white. You can bind it in whatever colour that you want, whatever colour scheme you like. And quite often I've done it with just the ivory ribbons with the trading ribbon to match the bridesmaids' dresses. So yeah, you can do it however you like. To make this rose, so in addition to your old book or the book you want to use, you'll also need some kitchen foil. Now this is just a bog standard kitchen foil. You'll also need some white PVA glue and some wallpaper paste. Now the link to mix the wallpaper paste up is in the video description, so you can go and take a look if you need to do that. You'll also need some thread, just regular sewing thread is perfectly fine. You'll need some scissors. And you'll need some florist tape. Now I like to use this dark green, but you can get it in all sorts of colours. You'll also need some ribbon for the binding. Now for this one today, I'm just going to use up the knit and stitch 2 cm wide ribbon that I have in my stock. So you'll also need some of this Oasis waterproof ribbon. This is like a poly something ribbon. It's 5 cm wide or 2 inches, and it comes on these big rolls of 100 yards. And I think you can buy smaller amounts from some places. I like to get the whole roll because I did get through a lot of it. So the colour I'm using today is cream, but you can also get it in white and lots of other colours as well. And you'll find it anywhere where they stock Oasis products, and you can probably get it online as well. You'll also need to have a dressmaker's pin. And let's not forget that you'll also need to have the template. This is my standard template. You'll only need the petal template for this rose, or this bouquet rather. You don't need to worry about the leaf shape. So the link for this template is in my video description as well. And as always, if you print it out at 100% on A4 paper, it will be exactly the right size. You'll also need to have a stapler and some sellotape, which I didn't record the sellotape, but you do need some. So to start with, what we want to do is prepare our stems, and for our stems we are going to use the kitchen foil, and we want to tear it off at about 20 centimetres. So you'll need to tear off 7 strips of kitchen foil at 20 centimetres wide. And once you have these prepared, take one of the sheets and fold it in half, and then fold it in half twice more, and then give it a squeeze on one end. And what we're trying to create is a nice condensed strip of foil, and I do this by just rolling it between my fingers. And what you're left with is a very good base for a stem. It's flexible, yet it still holds its shape. And the next stage is to tear out some pages from your book. Now, I like to tear out 4 pages together, and for this bouquet, we'll need to tear out 7 lots of 4 book pages. If you hold the book firmly at the top, you can generally pull all 4 pages out at the same time. So once you have your book pages, make sure that they're nicely aligned together. And then simply fold them in half. And then take your template and make sure the fold of the book pages is at the top. Align your template with the edge of the text and simply cut around your template. Now for each rose that we're making, we want to cut 3 times, and each cut will give us 8 petals. And although we only need 21 petals for this rose, I find that having a few spare gives us a few extra options when we're laying out and making the roses. So we'll end up cutting 24 petals from each book page. So simply carry on with this process until you have all your petals cut. And if you're familiar with making my standard novella rose, this is pretty much the same process. So the only part you'll really need to know is how to bind all the roses together and how to add all the trimmings. So if you need to, you can use the timestamps in the video description to jump to that part of the video so that you don't have to watch the whole process. But you might like to watch the whole process, I don't know. But yes, just keep on cutting all of the petals from all of the book pages. So once all your petals are cut, you want to make your first rose. So I will normally take my petals and I will lay them out in front of me, and repeat after me if you know this process. You lay them out in front of me in 3 rows of 6 petals. Two additional petals to the right hand side and all of the spares to the left. Now the very first petal that we'll use comes from the spares pile, and we simply hold it in the middle at the top and roll the side down from the right hand side of the petal to the middle of the petal, and we're going to make a point and we're going to roll it down to make a cone shape. We put a good blob of wallpaper paste inside the cone shape, and then we insert the foil stem. Squeeze the petal at the bottom and then use your thread to bind the petal to the stem. Now I'll usually wrap the thread around 3 or 4 times before gradually winding it down to the bottom of the petal and where the foil stem is showing. And at this stage I like to put the wallpaper paste on all of the rest of the petals that are laying out in front of me. I'll put a good blob on. It doesn't matter if you put too much on, it doesn't matter if you put too little on really, as long as most of them have got a good healthy amount on. It will all dry and it will all help secure the rose. So pick up your stem and then pick up the first petal, which is technically the second petal, and with the curl of the first petal towards us, place the second petal so it aligns with the bottom of the petal that's on the stem. Squeeze the second petal at the bottom and wrap it around the stem, and then use your thread to hold it in place, simply by winding it around 2 or 3 times. Now the third petal, we want to place this directly opposite the petal we've just placed. And again, pinch it at the bottom and wind the thread around 2 or 3 times just to hold it all in place. Now the fourth petal, what we want to do is align it so that the middle of the new petal aligns with the very edge of the previous petal. And then use the thread to just hold it in place. 2 or 3 times will usually do it. Now you want to continue that method of attaching the petals for all of the rest of the petals that are in front of us. So simply align every new petal, the middle of every new petal, with the very edge of the previous petal. As always, if you do have a go at making this bouquet, I would love to see your results. So you can email me, or you can contact me on Instagram, or you can just leave a message in the comments below and tell me how it went. And if you are enjoying this video, you can give me the thumbs up and just hit like, and that would be very much appreciated. As you get to the very last petal, we want to attach it in the usual way, but wind the thread around an extra 3 or 4 times and gradually bring the thread down to the stem. And then holding the thread in place with your fingertip, snip off the thread and apply some wallpaper paste to the thread in the direction that you've been winding it, and that will hold it all in place. You want a nice good amount on there. It will all dry, and it will all dry lovely. And then at this stage we can tease the petals open with our fingertips, and if you push them out too far you can simply pull them back up. And we just want to have a nice aesthetic looking rose. You need to make 7 for this bouquet, 7 of these roses, and I'm not going to show you the full process for each of the other 6 roses. You can use the timestamps in the video description to jump back and use as a guide if you are making these roses. And then once you've made them, I would normally leave them overnight to dry. You don't really want to move on to the next stage until all of the roses are fully dry and the petals are all secure in place. So we're going to take some of the waterproof Oasis ribbon. So I'll usually trim it at about 20 centimetres. And I'll cut 3 pieces of ribbon from the reel at 20 centimetres. And then at about 2.5 centimetres across the end, holding them all together, just tear the ribbon. So take a length of the ribbon that we've just cut and simply staple it to make a little loop. Just continue to make the loops. So once your roses are dry, what we want to do is add the florist tape to the roses. Now we only need to part bind these because they're going to be covered in ribbon and the waterproof ribbon as well. So initially what I want to do is just trim the stems to the right length. So we want to align them so that the petals are all sitting nicely. If one sits too high, it will look out of place. So I generally will align the petals so that they are just touching. And then you can see that some of the foils are longer than the others. So I usually trim them at 22 centimeters from the top of the highest rose. We might need to trim them up later, depends on the positioning of the roses afterwards. But we want to add the florist tape now. So what we do is take some of your florist tape, wind it around the bunchy bit underneath the rose, and simply wind the tape down about halfway, a little over halfway really, and then trim it off. Add a little bit of PVA glue just to hold it in place. And then do the same for the other 6 roses. So once we've part bound all of our roses, we want to align them back up together. So the top rose is slightly raised and the other roses sit around it. And I find if I just put a little curve in the palm of my hands and just push down on the roses, it makes them sit rather nicely together. And where the stems meet, I will secure all the roses in place with a little bit of florist tape. And if needs be, at this point, I will reposition the roses, but these ones all look quite nice together. So now we'll add those loops that we made. And so I start by putting a little bit of glue around the top of the florist tape that we've used to bind the 7 roses together. And then I will take one of the loops with the pointy bits of the staple on the inside and align it so that it nestles between 2 roses. And I'll hold that in place with thread, a trusty thread, and don't worry if the loop comes down a bit, you can use your fingers just to pop it back up. So we want to place one loop between each pair of roses around the edge. Once all of our loops are in place, you can reposition them if you need to. I will then, as with the petals, I will use the thread and wind it right down to the bottom of the waterproof ribbon. Hold it in place with my thumb and add a little bit of PVA glue. Now we want to take a nice long strip of the waterproof ribbon and we want to tear it in half lengthways. We'll cut about 7 or 8 centimetres off one of the strips. And then I'll just tidy up the bottom of the stems. So take your long length of the waterproof ribbon, and what we want to do is wind it so that it covers all of the thread from the loops. So put a good amount of glue around the thread and on the stems, and then simply just wind the waterproof ribbon around the stems. Tilt it at an angle so that the ribbon starts winding down the stems, and when you get to the bottom, just use a little bit of sellotape just to temporarily hold it in place. Now what I normally do is I pop a little bit of glue on the bottom of the stems and take the smaller bit of waterproof ribbon and just place it over the end of the stems. Use some sellotape just to secure it in place. And this is an undercoat for the fabric ribbon, and it just adds a little bit of extra strength to the stems. So now what we want to do is to take our ribbon, our fabric ribbon, and we want to cut 2 strips of about 8 centimetres. If you're using a wider ribbon, you might only need 1. So apply a little bit of PVA glue to the bottom of the handpiece, and then we want to take one of the strips of ribbon and we want to place it so that it covers about 2/3 of the base of the handpiece. And then taking our trusty thread, we want to bind this in place. Now take care not to squeeze too tightly, but you want it tight enough to hold everything in place nicely. Then take the other strip that we've cut from the ribbon and again place it on the other side so that it covers 2/3. So then, using your thumb, just press down the kind of hooded part on the side of the handpiece and bring the thread up and bind it down, and do the same on the other side. It does look a little bit messy, but it works. So at this point, again, as always, I'll use a bit of PVA glue just along the thread, and then with the ribbon still on the reel, we want to place the ribbon at a slight angle, and we want to wrap it around the end of the handpiece. You want to get as close to the top of the handpiece as possible, and you want to make sure you've covered all the thread. So once the ribbon starts wrapping over itself, you just want to keep winding the ribbon so that it moves along the handpiece. If you find that the ribbon starts twisting or bunching up, you just need to release the ribbon a little bit and reposition it. When you get to the top of the handpiece, simply cut the ribbon, pop a little bit of glue onto the ribbon, and then use a dressmaker's pin to just temporarily hold the ribbon in place so that it doesn't unravel. Then I'll trim just over 1 metre of ribbon and we'll tie this in a double knot around the top of the handpiece. So to start with, I'll do a loose knot, position it over where the dressmaker's pin is, pull out the dressmaker's pin, tighten the knot, and then put in a second knot. And then I'll simply just trim the ribbon ends so that they are the same length. And that is it. She might not be the most glamorous of makes, but the finished result is adorable. And you can decorate it with any other trimmings that you like, and you can change the colour of the ribbon if you choose as well. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial, and if you have, then do hit the like button because your support is always appreciated. And yeah, let me know how you get on making it.